The helicopter trembled violently in the middle of the private airfield as alarms screamed across the runway. Engineers rushed toward it with expensive diagnostic equipment, executives watched from a safe distance, and one of the richest women in America folded her arms with complete disappointment. Millions of dollars worth of technology had failed in front of everyone, and the aircraft that represented power, prestige, and innovation had suddenly become nothing more than a motionless piece of metal. But standing quietly behind the crowd was a man nobody noticed, a tired single father wearing faded work clothes, carrying a rusty toolbox held together with duct tape. Within the next 3 minutes, he would do what dozens of highly paid experts could not, changing not only the fate of the helicopter but also the destiny of everyone watching. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is more valuable than wealth and that every person deserves a second chance no matter how humble their appearance may be, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs hope today, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support allows stories like this to reach people who need encouragement the most. Nathan Carter was 38 years old, a widowed father raising his 9-year-old daughter Emily in a small farming town several hours away from the city. Life had once been comfortable. Nathan had served as an aircraft mechanic in the military, where he earned a reputation for solving problems that others considered impossible. His hands seemed to understand machines the way musicians understood instruments. Even the oldest helicopters often seemed to respond to his touch. But after his wife Hannah lost her battle with a sudden illness, Nathan walked away from his career. Emily needed a father more than the world needed another mechanic. The savings disappeared into hospital bills, the family home was sold, and eventually Nathan found work repairing tractors, harvesters, pickup trucks, and old farm equipment in a tiny garage owned by an elderly friend. Money was always short. Every morning Nathan woke before sunrise to prepare Emily's breakfast, braid her hair the best he could despite never mastering the skill, pack her school lunch, and drive her to school before beginning another exhausting day repairing machines that barely earned enough to cover rent and groceries. Yet despite everything life had taken from him, Nathan never allowed bitterness to settle inside his heart. Emily often told her teachers that her father could fix anything except sadness. Nathan always smiled at those words, even though sadness remained the one thing he secretly carried every day. Across the country, Victoria Sterling had built one of the largest technology and aviation companies in the world. At 42 years old, she was admired for her intelligence, feared for her perfectionism, and respected for creating billion-dollar businesses before most people finished college. Newspapers described her as brilliant but emotionally distant. She trusted numbers more than people and contracts more than promises. Every decision she made was calculated with cold precision. Her newest pride was a customized executive helicopter worth nearly $40 million, equipped with experimental flight systems designed by the best engineers money could buy. That morning Victoria arrived at Sterling Aviation's private testing facility expecting another successful demonstration for international investors. Television crews waited nearby. Financial analysts stood ready to celebrate another technological breakthrough. Instead, only seconds after the engine started, warning lights flashed violently across every display. The helicopter lost power before lifting from the ground. Engineers connected computers, replaced electronic modules, recalibrated software, and repeated the startup sequence again and again. Nothing worked. Hours passed beneath the scorching afternoon sun. The chief engineer quietly informed Victoria that the transmission control system had likely suffered catastrophic internal failure. Replacing the damaged assembly would require transporting the aircraft overseas. The repair would cost millions of dollars and take months. Victoria stared at the silent helicopter before shaking her head. She declared that the helicopter was finished. Scrap it. Sell whatever parts remained valuable. Build another one instead. Most people nodded in agreement because nobody wanted to challenge the billionaire whose opinion usually proved correct. At that exact moment Nathan's old pickup truck rolled slowly through the service entrance. He had been hired by a nearby contractor to repair an agricultural fuel pump on the property. His toolbox looked older than many employees working there. His boots were covered in dust, his shirt carried grease stains, and his weathered face revealed years of hard work beneath unforgiving sunlight. As he passed the helicopter, he instinctively slowed down. Something about the sound made during the final startup attempt bothered him. Years of experience had trained his ears to hear tiny mechanical differences invisible to computers. He politely asked one technician if he could take a closer look. Several engineers laughed immediately. One whispered that farm mechanics should repair tractors, not multi-million-dollar helicopters. Another joked that perhaps duct tape would solve everything. Nathan simply smiled without responding. He had learned long ago that arguing rarely changed anyone's opinion. Victoria noticed the exchange and asked who the stranger was. After hearing the explanation, she almost laughed herself. She told the engineers to let him satisfy his curiosity since nothing else had worked anyway. Nathan climbed carefully onto the maintenance platform. He placed one hand against the transmission housing. He closed his eyes. He listened. Then he gently rotated a small inspection panel, reached inside with nothing more than a basic wrench, loosened a pressure lock collar that had seized slightly during assembly, removed a tiny fragment of protective packaging accidentally trapped deep inside the linkage, tightened the collar correctly, and stepped back down. Less than 3 minutes had passed. Nathan calmly suggested trying again. Nobody expected anything. The engine started. Every warning light disappeared. The rotor blades accelerated smoothly. The helicopter lifted gracefully into the sky as if nothing had ever been wrong. Silence covered the runway. Then came disbelief. The same engineers who had spent 6 frustrating hours examining advanced software watched an ordinary mechanic solve the problem using experience instead of expensive equipment. Victoria stared upward as the helicopter circled perfectly overhead. For the first time in many years, she found herself speechless. When the aircraft landed safely, every employee rushed toward Nathan. Some wanted explanations. Others wanted photographs. Several simply wanted to shake his hand. Nathan quietly packed away his tools because he still had another repair job waiting before sunset. Victoria stopped him before he reached his truck. She asked how he knew where to look. Nathan explained that years earlier he had encountered a nearly identical issue during military service. Modern computers often searched for complicated electronic failures while ignoring the possibility of a tiny mechanical obstruction. Machines, he said, often whispered their problems long before they screamed them. Those words stayed in Victoria's mind. She invited Nathan into her office. As they spoke, she learned about Emily, about Hannah, about hospital bills, and about the sacrifices a father quietly made every single day. Nathan never complained. He simply described life as it was. Victoria realized she had spent years surrounded by people who constantly advertised their achievements while overlooking a man whose greatest accomplishment was raising a kind daughter despite losing almost everything. She offered Nathan a prestigious executive engineering position. The salary exceeded anything he had ever earned. Nathan thanked her sincerely but hesitated. Emily came first. He could not move across the country overnight. Instead of becoming frustrated, Victoria surprised herself. She asked what arrangement would allow him to accept. Nathan requested something simple. Flexible hours. Time to take Emily to school. Time to attend her school performances. Time to be present whenever she needed him. Victoria immediately agreed. Within weeks Nathan became the head of mechanical reliability at Sterling Aviation. His first recommendation shocked the board of directors. Instead of investing millions in additional software, he proposed training engineers to develop practical diagnostic skills through hands-on experience. Some executives doubted him. Months later, equipment failures across the company dropped dramatically. Maintenance costs decreased. Aircraft reliability reached record levels. Nathan never claimed personal credit. He always praised teamwork. Meanwhile, Emily visited the aviation facility after school. Employees who once ignored Nathan now welcomed his daughter like family. She spent afternoons drawing helicopters, asking endless questions, and dreaming about becoming an aerospace engineer someday. Victoria often watched from her office window. Emily laughed more than anyone else in the building. It reminded Victoria of something missing from her own childhood. Growing up, her parents measured success by profits and achievements. Love had always been conditional. Praise had to be earned. Watching Nathan patiently help Emily build model aircraft from recycled materials taught Victoria lessons no business school ever could. One rainy evening, Emily forgot her backpack at headquarters. Victoria personally drove it to Nathan's home. She expected a modest house. Instead, she found a tiny rented cottage with peeling paint, a leaking porch roof, and flowers carefully planted in old coffee cans because buying proper pots cost too much. Inside, however, she witnessed something wealth had never purchased for her. Nathan and Emily were eating homemade soup, laughing over a board game, completely content despite owning almost nothing. Driving home, Victoria realized her billion-dollar mansion had never felt as warm. Over the following year she quietly changed. She created scholarship programs for children of employees. She expanded family leave. She established emergency medical funds so no worker would lose everything after a health crisis like Nathan had. The company's culture transformed. People worked harder because they felt valued rather than feared. Investors noticed improved performance. Employees noticed happier lives. Nathan never asked for recognition. Yet one anniversary of the helicopter incident, Victoria invited the entire company to the original runway. The same helicopter landed gently before hundreds of employees. She presented Nathan with a handcrafted plaque engraved with simple words. The man who reminded us that true value cannot always be measured by appearances. Nathan accepted it with tears quietly forming in his eyes. He looked toward Emily, now smiling proudly from the front row. He realized the greatest reward had never been the promotion, the salary, or the recognition. It was proving to his daughter that integrity, humility, and kindness eventually shine brighter than pride. Years later, Emily graduated at the top of her university with a degree in aerospace engineering. As she stood beside the very helicopter her father had once saved in only 3 minutes, she told reporters that machines could be repaired with knowledge, but hearts could only be repaired through compassion. Those words spread around the world. People remembered the billionaire who believed the helicopter was worthless. But they never forgot the single father who saw possibility where everyone else saw failure. Maybe the greatest miracles are not performed by extraordinary people. Maybe they are performed by ordinary people who quietly refuse to give up, who continue helping others even after life has broken them, and who understand that experience earned through suffering often becomes the greatest gift they can offer the world. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends and family, and leave a comment because your support helps us continue creating stories that remind the world that kindness is never wasted. Before this story ends, please write these words in the comments: never judge by appearances. It may inspire someone who desperately needs hope today. As the sun disappeared beyond the runway that evening, the helicopter lifted into the golden sky once more. Nathan watched it with Emily standing beside him, knowing that life had finally rewarded years of silent sacrifice. Victoria watched from a distance, grateful that one ordinary mechanic had repaired far more than an aircraft. He had repaired a broken perspective, transformed an entire company, inspired countless families, and reminded everyone that the greatest treasures are not found in bank accounts or luxury machines, but in humble hearts that choose compassion over pride. And long after the sound of the helicopter faded into the evening sky, the lesson remained, echoing quietly through every life it had touched: never underestimate a person simply because the world failed to notice their worth.